Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to see what it is we can expect to happen and what it is we should be doing in the end times. And as we've gone through this book of Revelation, we've hit a section on chapter 17 where there's kind of a pause in the timeline or in the story of the timeline, and we're introduced to a harlot riding a beast, and John is carried away in the spirit to the wilderness, or to this desolate wasteland, where he sees a harlot riding on a beast. And I'm going to be real honest, I actually filmed this episode once before, and I didn't use that, primarily because it's going to get really complicated here, and I'm doing my best to try to interpret this. What this beast is, because here on God, Family, and Guns, we only use the Bible as a cross-reference, and this beast is mentioned multiple times in the Word of God. So trying to kind of put it all together for you is really a challenging thing, and we're going to dedicate many episodes to this beast because we have to look at what it is the Word of God says in other places about this beast to truly understand what it is. God is not the God of confusion or the God of lies. He makes things clear and plain, and they're always the truth. So we're going to take a look at this beast. What I'm going to recommend with this episode is I'm going to recommend that you get something to write on. I'm going to show you my notes as best I can because there's things we're going to have to keep track of. We're going to keep track of some things today, and then the next episode we're going to kind of add on to that list of things we're keeping track of regarding this beast, and we'll kind of, after however many episodes that takes, we'll put it all together and try to just get a clear picture of what this is. So we're just going to pick it up where we left off, chapter 17. We'll pick it up in verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication. The inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." All right, so I'm going to pause there. We're just going to look at this beast. So I want you to take some notes here. Number one, what he saw. He saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. And this beast, 3 notes. We're just going to keep track of these 3 notes. It was full of names of blasphemy. It had 7 heads, and it had 10 horns. Now, we spent several episodes talking about this harlot. And, you know, this harlot is a kingdom. It's a group of people that is made up of many tribes, tongues, and nations, and religions, all kind of in one nation. It's a very gluttonous, spending, shopping, crazy nation. And it's made up of harlots. It's made up of people. It's a kingdom of whoredom. It's a kingdom of pornography. It's where the word pornea comes from, is these verses here. It's a kingdom of gluttonous whoredom is what the Bible tells us. And this kingdom is sitting on the beast. You got to make note of that. So this whore, this harlot, this kingdom made up of tribes, tongues, and nations of whores and gluttonous spenders is sitting on the beast. And this beast is full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, we're going to pause there. We're going to kind of keep it there for a bit. So you got those notes from Revelation 17. We're going to go back to Daniel, to a few places where it talks about this beast, and we're going to just then continue this list. So right now you got full of names of blasphemy, 7 heads, 10 horns. We're going to go to Daniel 2 first. And what's taking place in Daniel 2 is King Nebuchadnezzar has had a dream that's disturbing him, and he's essentially said if any of his magicians, soothsayers, wise men, religious folks, if they can't come and tell, not only interpret his dream, but tell him what the dream was, then he's going to kill them all. So Daniel prays to God for the interpretation, and God gives it to him, and he says this to King Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2, verse 31. "You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. This image's head was full of fine gold, its chest and arms were silver, its belly with ties of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. Now we will tell you the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are the King of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field, and the birds of heaven, he has given them into your hand, and he has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, and as much as iron breaks in pieces and shatters all things, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Now I want to pause there. We're going to keep digging through this, but I want to pause there, and I just want to make a very, very important note. Very important note. Because this is where a lot of people get confused on what the beast is, or what any of these beasts are, what the statue is. They get confused because they say, well, these are kings, or these are kingdoms. They're both. They're both kings and kingdoms. He's talking about an empire. Sometimes he addresses it as a king. Sometimes he addresses it as a kingdom. If we look back at 38, it says, you are the head of gold, but after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours. So don't put this like it's got to be a king or it's got to be a kingdom. It's kind of a blending of both. Sometimes God names them by person. Sometimes he talks about a kingdom. Sometimes he talks about a king. So we just have to be very clear that kings and kingdoms, when we're interpreting the beast, go together. Just keep that in mind. Let's go on. We'll pick it up in 41. Whereas you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic, watch this. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. Now, if you look at, this is a strange verse. If you look at what this says, and what they're saying is that they will mitraben, they will co-mingle and reproduce. They'll co-mingle and reproduce with Bizra, the posterity of all future people. So, as you know, you got to look at the words, what they mean, and what they're saying is that they will mingle, that there will be this, all future people, all tribes, tongues, nations will mingle and reproduce in this kingdom. And let's pick it up in 44. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So what is taking place here is, again, Daniel is seeing a kingdom that is just mixed up. It's a co-mingling reproduction of all future peoples, nations, tribes, and tongues. And in the end, Jesus wins. In the end, Jesus wins. And that's an important note, because what we're seeing is we're seeing a kingdom kind of just saying we could be everything we want to be, including God. And it's important that this whole story, I mean, if you look at the way it's all played out, it's like, well, there's this kingdom, this kingdom, this kingdom, this kingdom, and this kingdom, and then Jesus wins, and all those kingdoms turn to nothingness, and nobody even remembers them. It's important. That's the moral of this story, so keep that in mind. All right. A few chapters later, Daniel sees this beast specifically, and we'll pick it up in Revelation 7. Now, he sees 4 beasts, but we're just going to jump to the 4th one. Verse 7. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there, in this horn, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking pompous words. I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days were sealed. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. Fiery stream issued and came forth, and before him 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the book was opened. I watched then because of the sound of the pompous words which the horn was speaking. I watched till the beast was slain and its body destroyed and given to the burning flame. All right, so we're going to keep going with our list. Here in Daniel 7, as we look at this beast, we see that it is dreadful and strong and has iron teeth. It is destroying. It is different than all the other kingdoms, and I think we saw that with the feet. It had 10 horns, just like we saw in Revelation 17. However, here 3 of them were plucked. And one little horn, who had eyes like man, was speaking pompous words. So get those in your notes. Now, thankfully, there's an interpretation of this. So let's kind of take a look at that. We'll pick it up in 15. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body, and the visions in my head troubled me. I came near to one of those who stood by and asked him the truth of all of this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. Those great beasts, which are four kings. Now that word is actually kingdom, so again, be cautious of that. Which arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. All right. So when he asks for the interpretation, he makes it very plain and simple, and this is where we're going to try to get plain and simple. These are 4 kingdoms that come up, and then Jesus wins and the saints rule the earth. That's what this story, it's the same moral. It's the same moral of the story. You got 4 kingdoms that come up, then Jesus crushes them all and he wins, saints inherit the earth. It's important that you follow, because that's the only reason they're even sharing these stories. That's the only reason that Daniel even has been given these visions and these interpretations to point towards the coming of his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, and this war between the Antichrist and the saints, so we can be prepared for it. That's why this is so incredibly important, and why pre-tribulation rapture is satanic. Now let's keep going. Then I wished to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was exceedingly different from all others, exceedingly dreadful, and its teeth of iron, and its nails of bronze, which devour, broke in pieces, and trampled the residue of its feet. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, and about the other horn which came up, before which 3 fell, namely that horn which had eyes and a mouth, which spoke pompous words, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints and prevailing against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and the judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High, and the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. The 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hands for a time and times and half a time. But the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever. So here what you have is this interpretation. Again, this is where you want to take notes. The interpretation is that these beasts are 4 kingdoms. And Jesus wins, saints inherit the earth. All right, well, what else can we know? I'm kind of curious about that 4th beast, is what he tells them. The little horn on that beast will war against the saints. The 10 horns are 10 kings, and the little horn will war against the saints and prevail for 3.5 years, until Jesus wins and the saints possess the kingdom. Will intend to change times and laws, which essentially means he's trying to change facts. He's trying to change laws, trying to change things that are truth into lies, and laws that go against him into laws that are for him. All right, so here we go. What we know about this beast: it is a kingdom. Has 10 horns. We don't know anything about the heads yet, but it has 10 horns. Those are 10 kings. A little horn will come up and pluck out 3 of those kings. This kingdom is made up of iron and clay. It's the reproduction, commingling of all peoples. And that this little horn will speak pompous words against the Most High, against God, and then will war against the saints, try to change times and laws, and will prevail for 3.5 years. And then Jesus wins and the saints inherit the earth. So if we go back and take a look at what we read in Revelation 17, verse 3, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So we see this harlot, this whore, this group of people that is made up of many tribes, tongues, and nations that are whoring themselves out, sitting on a beast that is also made up of many tribes, a kingdom, so a group of people riding a kingdom of many tribes, nations, and tongues that is devouring, destroying, and being ruled by the Antichrist, who will take out 3 kings of that 10-king kingdom. So that's where we are so far. And again, in the end, Jesus wins, saints inherit the earth. That's the most important piece. So again, I kind of want to apologize for this episode. I tell my students in the past, like I always tell them, I kind of feel sorry for first hour because I'm trying to explain something. By the time I get to 6th hour, I can explain it really well. I definitely don't want to refilm this. So I'm hoping this kind of made sense. And we're going to keep coming back to this. We're going to review this, come back to it, keep coming back to it, and we're going to look at other places in the Bible where we see this kingdom and this beast. So love to hear thoughts and comments on all this. I know it's about as clear as mud, but it's all going to, it's a picture, and we just painted kind of a little piece of that picture, and we're just going to continue to paint this picture over the next several episodes. So again, I also want to apologize for the delay of this video. Again, I had recorded this video. It's hard to lay all this out. I mean, we're looking at about at least 5 different places in the Bible that talks about this kingdom, and then we're going to put it all together at the end. So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. Put them below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with a Patreon. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests, so don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.